It's day one of Warhammer Fest, and there's a lot of heresy to talk about, so let's get right into it. We're starting with the Chaos Space Marines, but we're not really focusing on Chaos Space Marines specifically. No. We're focusing on a bunch of possessed, a bunch of cultists, and frankly...
My day has come!
It's true! It has, and you have some glorious new companions that I absolutely adore. So let's talk in order, starting with the new possessed, because I think they look pretty gosh darn cool. I like the updates that they've made. They're a little bit more organic. I feel like they have a little bit more mutation actually going on them right now, which is really cool. I love seeing that. I love seeing GW push the sort of madness of chaos a bit more in their sculpts beyond just more spikes and sharper teeth. I like seeing some of the tentacles. I like seeing some of the weird like limb changes and all that kind of thing. Then let's talk about the amazing new cultists. Now, when I first saw these guys...
Wait, meaning new cultists.
They're brand new. I looked. I thought
What do
at
you mean
first...
they're amazing?
Wait.
Are you trying to say they're better than me?
No, don't worry. You're my favorite cultist. You are my favorite.
Watching you.
You always
I'm
are.
watching you, Angela.
I'm watching you. Now, he's my favorite cultist, but I do like these new cultists. And the reason that I like them is because personally, I am a big fan of the Blackstone Fortress line of models. I think they're exceptionally well done and designed, and these new cultists blend right in with the Serving the Abyss box set, which was an expansion for Blackstone Fortress that included a bunch of cultists. I think there was like 20 of them. There was one girl in particular that had these really cool upturned horns, and there's a similar character in the new cultist set. And I imagine there's going to be a little bit of variety too, so you can kind of change their heads, maybe some of their limbs a little bit. But overall, I'm really loving the cultist designs. We also have some actually new types of cultists called the Accursed cultists.
Wait. Is it because they have tentacles?
It is because they're mutants. They're specifically
Accursed
cultist mutants. And oh man, they have lots of tentacles. And I actually really like these. They are getting a little bit Poxwalker-esque in regards to the aesthetic and everything, which I do really like, but I do feel like it's kind of stepping on my Death Guard's toes a little bit. But you know what? Overall, it doesn't matter because they're all chaos, right? I can paint them up however I want to. And this just gives me more opportunity to add variety into my Death Guard unit. We also have some Accursed Cultist Tormentors, or Torments. I think I wrote that down, possibly wrong. But they're basically Chaos Spawn, but slightly smaller seemingly. I really feel like these particular models are going to eventually cause Chaos Spawn to go into Legends, because I think that the new name is a lot more marketable, a lot more copyrightable, and whereas Chaos Spawn probably isn't. And the explanation during the preview basically made it seem like GW was like, they're roughly the same, they're just slightly smaller, but these are the new ones, aren't they cool? And yes, they are, but I do worry about Chaos Spawn just disappearing off of the unit list down the line. The last new model that we need to talk about, it's several new models, it's a whole group of them, it's a bunch of HQs. We need to talk about the Dark Communion because oh boy, I like these ladies and gentlemen because honestly, they just look really rad. I do think that they're slightly less sci-fi than I really want. Like they almost feel Lord of the Rings to me in aesthetic, especially the two boys with the giant oversized swords. Like I love me a big truck and sword and everything like that.
I love them for Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly, but I don't really necessarily feel like some of the models really fit into the 40K verse. They feel like either Dungeons and Dragons, maybe something from like Age of Sigmar if you were wanting to put them in a Slaves of Darkness.
I mean, the helmets are so Lord of the Rings.
There's the helmets, that's really what does it. The helmets are really what just scream Lord of the Rings to me. But overall, I have to say, I am loving all of the new Chaos stuff that we're getting because I just love Chaos models. They're so much fun. There's so much constantly going on with them.
Imperial Chopper! Welcome back! You asked for it? We got it! The latest chopper concept from the leagues of Votann! Presenting the Hernkyn Pioneer! Unparalleled comfort makes you feel like you're floating on air! Because you are! Smooth lines and an open canopy let the wind whip through your totally awesome coat. All that and some hellacious firepower. The Hernkyn Pioneer from the leagues of Votaan. You're out of their league.
We're still sticking with some heretical stuff, but this time it's a bike. And we're talking about the leagues of Votaan because we got a reveal of another new model that's coming for them. It is the Hernkyn Pioneer, which honestly looks really cool. I'm honestly torn, actually. It looks cool, but at the same time, it makes me very interested, I guess, mostly curious about where we're going in 10th edition. Because if you look at everything that's come out for the Votaan so far model-wise, it screams Men of Iron, specifically the Man of Iron that comes in the Blackstone Fortress set, not only because I just weirdly associate the color tone that they're going with the Votaan, but all of the rounded metal really, really makes me think Men of Iron. And we just got revealed that the Votaan, the actual ancestral cores, are AI driven. They didn't call them that specifically. They used some, fake Latin to sort of cover it up, but they're essentially saying they're AI.
Excuse me, you mean High Imperial Gothic?
Oh,
right?
yes, I'm sorry. High Imperial Gothic, my apologies. Yes, but they really I really think in 10th edition, this is my theory, this is my hot take on it. I think we are going to see AI return heavily. I think we're going to see that dramatically change some of the more mechanical based units throughout the game. I think Mechanicus are going to see some huge updates down the line in 10th edition, possibly 11th, because I know they have some new stuff relatively recently. Votaan are obviously going to continue to push the sort of more modern, sleek design to differentiate it from both the Guard, the Astartes, and just still have it fit within that world. And I really like that. But it's also very weird and jarring to me because I'm used to everything being so much more blocky. And we talked about this a little bit with the Contemptor Dreadnought yesterday in the news, where I love his round design because it's different from the more blocky designs modernly. But it also, with everything doing that, I don't know, it's almost too much. And I'm just like, no, stop. I don't want this many changes. But then again, I look at it and it's just cool. And it means more opportunities to paint. So the hobbyist in me is really pleased. All right, next we need to talk about the lamest thing that they had on this particular preview, and that is the new chapter approved. Now, I know some people who are maybe hyper competitive are going to enjoy getting this book, but frankly, I think there's too much book bloat out there, and this is just adding to it. And some of the stuff that they're putting in here, I feel like should just be free content, whereas other things that they are offering as free content really doesn't matter that it's free content because it seems irrelevant. So let's talk about what we're actually getting and some of the highlights that they talked about for chapter approved. First of all, we're going to be getting less command points. You are getting less command points, which I actually think is a good change, but I find it interesting that they're just dropping it in this particular book rather than saving this for maybe 10th edition or making some adjustments there. It seems like it's designed to sort of curb the potential relic spam / upgrade of war gear spam that may happen at the beginning of competitive games, as well as hindering some of the more OP combinations of stratagems and other things that you can do to really just hammer your opponent home really hard in the first round and absolutely blow them out of the water and make the game less fun, less competitive, and kind of dull near the end. So the change is not necessarily bad, but it's just, I don't know, it just seems weird to just continuously update these things every 6 months or so. Like, this is the second chapter approval we'll get in this year, which I know is not uncommon, but I just don't like seeing so much rules bloat constantly come out and immediately invalidating the previous things that they've already just released, making everybody spend so much more money. Additionally, secondary objectives are going to be entirely in this book. All of the new secondary objectives, including the ones for chapters, or not chapters, but codexes that have not actually released yet, like the Imperial Guard or Chaos Demons, will be fully updated in this new book. That is a good thing for those players, but it still sucks that they have to buy this book and then eventually just buy their codex on top of it, which will probably also include them, meaning they're repeating buying the same rules again, and also buying excess rules that they may not care about. So I have mixed feelings about that, although I do like seeing that all of the secondaries are going to be revamped. But again, it still runs into the you've validated products that you've already made people spend money on. The last thing that is to be expected with this is that the book is not actually going to contain any points updates. That is all going to be free, which I kind of find silly considering it's gonna be free online anyways, because it's gonna end up on Battlescribe or just on Reddit and everybody's gonna share it anyways. So the fact that GW like made a point to call out that they weren't putting the points in this book, but are putting the secondary objectives, which are probably what people care about more and actually want access to, it just really leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm just not pleased to see another chapter approved come out.
Are you ready for blood for the blood god?
Blood for the blood god!
Are you ready for skulls for the skull throne?
Skulls for the skull throne!
Well, you gotta wait like another 2 years probably.
So the World Eaters are one of the original traitor legions that fell to chaos during the time of the Horus Heresy. They are the favoured of the Blood God, the Lord of War, so one of the great chaos gods, his personal servants. Unlike some of the other traitor legions, they're not really an organised force. There was a famous battle at Scalathrax where the legion was shattered, mainly by a guy called Khan the Betrayer. The clue's in the name. He kind of went mad, killed loads of his erstwhile colleagues, the legion shattered into pieces. In recent periods of time, increasing numbers of World Eater warbands have been seen across the galaxy, united by particularly powerful warlords. There'll be no surprise to anyone that they're mainly focused on close combat. They're a really aggressive fighting force. In the future, when we really explore them in depth, there'll be a little bit more nuance to some of the way that some of those units will work that will give you a really good play experience. One of the cool things about this project was an opportunity to treat the World Eaters as the faction in their own right. So we've taken them out of the Chaos Space Marines book so that we can give them all the love that they deserve. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some great rules content in White Dwarf to tide people over while they wait for the full World Eaters experience. So our current Khorne Berserker models literally fought the Long War. It's not quite 10,000 years, but they are showing their age a little bit. So we will be doing, as part of the main release for World Eaters later on, a full set of new miniatures, including, of course, new Khorne Berserkers. There'll be all kinds of exciting things released as part of that miniature release. Some of those will be old favourites, but there'll be a few surprises in there as well, and things that maybe people aren't quite expecting. As ever, there's always great things happening in the 41st millennium, and I'm excited to see what you all do with the exciting new World Eaters in the future.
Yeah, probably, but we did get a major announcement, and that is that eventually we're getting a World Eaters Codex. Everybody who's been wanting it, you guys, the wait is almost over, maybe. Now, let's talk about actually what the plan is and when we think this might be coming out, because I think there's some speculation to be doing. And they really didn't give us a huge amount of info, just, hey, things are coming. Hope you guys are excited. So we do know that we are going to be getting some supplemental rules in a White Dwarf coming up that is going to add updates for the Word Bearers, because they are not going to be in the Chaos Space Marines Codex. This White Dwarf will be releasing around the same time as the Chaos Space Marine Codex, so they should coincide, and that way you can mix and match and still use all those cool new cultists that came in, because I know that's a big deal for Chaos Cultists, or for World Eaters. But
it can be a big deal for me too.
It can be a big deal for you as well. But we're not actually getting a new codex yet, and I actually don't think we're going to be seeing an actual 9th edition World Eaters Codex. I think we're going to be seeing them as the first codex coming out in 10th edition. My speculation is that World Eaters are going to be the Chaos Force in whatever the starter set box is going to be, which means really good things for anybody that has been very interested in waiting for the return of the World Eaters. Because if it's anything like what the Death Guard got, holy crap, we're getting a ton of new models and they should be pretty epic. I mean, just look at what we got in this preview for Chaos Space Marines. I can only imagine that the brand new Berserkers that we're supposed to be getting will be badass. I am interested to see what else we're getting beyond just the new Berserkers, although I do know that Berserkers, I think, are one of the more older plastic kits currently still standing.
Are they plastic?
I think they are.
Okay.
I think they are, but I think they're like one of the oldest kits,
they
like
are,
or
right.
earliest plastic kits that are still like being used or something like that.
It's them and the Aspect Warriors.
Yes, I think so. So like, I really love that. I love that we're seeing the World Eaters, and I'm really actually quite excited to see them in 10th edition if my predictions is true. Let me know what your thoughts are on it below, because I really don't think we're going to be seeing the full Codex in 9th edition. I really do think it's going to be a 10th edition thing. Guys, we have a much better face on our Demon Prince now because we got the reveal of the 40k version of the Demon Prince where he's got a gun arm, which looks badass, as well as a much cooler face. In fact, there are many cooler faces that are actually coming in this kit other than that weird one that we saw in the Age of Sigmar one, because we have one for Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch, and then also an undivided one. So when we talked yesterday about how they were basically just taking the Demon Prince campaign from Total War Warhammer 3, that's exactly what they did. They've just basically given us that. The undivided face even kind of looks almost, I don't know if it's identical, but it really, really was reminiscent of the generic Demon Prince face from Total War Warhammer 3 when you start that campaign. And frankly, I actually like this. I've always wanted to see the god-specific faces and other attributes that you could actually apply to the Demon Princes. I know that there were individual kits for some of them where you could like make a Demon Prince of Nurgle, for example. Like I have that kit, but I want to see it come as just one big full kit. So that's the only thing you have to buy. You don't have to buy all these separate pieces. And they've done that finally. So overall, I think I'm pretty happy with it. I also just want to call out that I still really like the wings on the Age of Sigmar one, but basically everything else about him I just don't like. I so much more like the clawed feet that you see on the 40k version. I think his tail is fantastically spiky and delightful, and I love all of his weapon options because seeing that gun arm return just makes me really, really happy. And last but not least, on this Warhammer Fest day focused on Warhammer 40k, we got a Warhammer Plus preview for a new animation that's coming out called Angels of Death Origins, which is tied to the Angels of Death series, but it's designed to focus on the origins of the characters you saw there. It's cool, like I'm glad they're still making animations, but I still don't think Warhammer Plus is really worth it, and this content comes out so slowly that I just can't be bothered. That has been it for today's episode of covering Warhammer Fest. Make sure that you tune back in tomorrow as we look at whatever they reveal for Age of Sigmar and any of the following days after that, because we still have quite a bit of content to look at, and I'm in particularly very excited about the Horus Heresy Day. Before I head out, I want to go ahead and thank my patrons for making it so content like this can continue to happen. Without your guys' support, we wouldn't be doing this, so thank you very much. If you'd like to join them, you can find a link for my Patreon down in the description below. Anyways, I have been Angela, you have been watching Hobby Night, and I hope you have a wonderful Hobby Night.